Baby is sleepless chat. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the Let's Chat playlist. All right, where we talk about entrepreneurship, breastfeeding, motherhood, postpartum, all the things. And I am nothing without my notes, so bear with me, okay? I don't hear anything. All right, y'all. So first thing on my notes is breastfeeding and what it taught me. So first of all, um, breastfeeding this go round for my son, my second child, was completely different from my first child. And I think I mentioned that in another video, but I want to kind of break it down a little bit more. He wasn't latching at first, and that was, whew, moms don't talk about when you set out a goal to breastfeed and the amount of like trauma it causes you mentally when the baby doesn't agree with the plans that you had. And honestly, my eyes are getting watery all over again. Honestly, it caught like the feeling I had was something I never felt before. It was like failure, it was like defeat. It was the worst feeling ever. My eyes are still getting watery. Ever. And I think that was like my first week home. So at the hospital, everybody thought that we were doing amazing with the breastfeeding, and honestly, I had already did it before, so I wasn't like, can I get help please? I wasn't doing all that. They would come in, they'd be like, how's your breastfeeding going? I'm like, it's going good, he's latching, we're good to go. I got home, so that first week out the hospital, he began to cry to the top of his lungs, and you would call it like an extreme cry, right? Something that we rarely would hear from a child unless he is just, or he or she is just like, something's wrong. And he wasn't peeing, he wasn't pooping, so that's what really told me something was wrong. The cry was just like the bonus. So when I called the hospital, it was like, honestly, that is a big deal that you're not getting your peas. Now the poop can be different because when you're breastfeeding, things are just different from bottle feeding. So the poop wasn't like a huge deal for them, because poops can come a little later, maybe that second week, that third week. But the peas, those peas should have still been peeing, and they weren't. You're supposed to get up to what, about I think it's like six diapers a day, and I was barely getting one. So that was a big deal. It was probably that Thursday. I probably got home that Sunday. It was probably that Thursday where he wasn't latching at all. At first he would latch a little bit, but by Thursday he wasn't latching at all, which means that he had went over 6 hours without eating, with me just trying and trying and trying. And finally my mom was like, I want to get formula. It broke me to my knees, y'all. And I was laying there. If I find the picture, I'm gonna put it right here. I was laying there with him on my chest, just boo-hoo crying, because, like I said, I felt like a failure. But in that moment, I heard God say, "What's the mission?" And when I heard that, I was like, "Well, the mission is to breastfeed. Like that's the mission." And I heard him. I heard the Holy Spirit say again, "What's the mission?" And I realized, the mission is to feed my baby. So in this moment, don't feel like a failure. In this moment, understand that winning is pivoting. And I'm not pivoting for a long time. I'm pivoting with intentionality that I'm going to get back to breastfeeding. So I did go ahead and give him formula in that moment. And then I began to read in the middle of the night a little bit more. So reading, asking chat what I could do to get back to breastfeeding. And it gave me a few things. And now, y'all, I'm fully breastfeeding. And then if I do formula, it's because I'm just on the road or something, or my hands are just tied and I didn't pump enough. But what came up on the internet and also just comparing it with chat was, in the middle of the night, I would give him a little bit of milk out of a bottle, and then I would give him my boob. I will only do that for like 1-2 minutes, and if it didn't work, then I go back to bottle. And then I would do that for a while. If he just doesn't latch at all that night, then whoop-de-doo, he just didn't latch. It just didn't work that night. But I would try that every night. And also, I stopped waiting until he was extremely hungry. So that's a little bit of a task for us moms. Normally, our baby wakes us up when they're hungry at nighttime. I would set my alarm for 30 minutes to an hour, really an hour. I would set it for an hour ahead of time, ahead of his feeding schedule, so that I could wake him and try to get him to latch when he's super, super calm. Um, and that worked out very, very well. He began to latch. That was the first win. He began to latch. And also, um, because he had like his tongue tied, we'll get into that a little bit more. I noticed when he did latch, he was still hungry, or it took me a very long time to feed. So I would still have that bottle nearby. Um, Breast milk, because now my milk was coming a little bit more, so I would still have a bottle nearby so that I could give him when he got done latching. The goal was just to get him to latch, to understand that this is where the milk comes from, this is what you should be doing to get the milk out, okay? And y'all, I did that nightly, night after night, day after day. And like I say, now I fully breastfeed all day, really. I put one latch on whichever boob he's not on, like a milk catcher, and I turn that into a bottle, because that can be like an ounce every feed. After 4 feeds, you got a 4 ounce bottle, you know. So I do that, and then, like I say, if I whip out formula, it's just because I don't have a bottle ready. Maybe I just wasn't doing my milk catching thing, and maybe I have to go somewhere real quick, and I just really have to whip out the formula. But yeah, like, God taught me that pivoting with intentionality, and I take that and I use it in my business, I use it in my personal life, understanding that I am not failing in no given moment when I pivot. I am just pivoting and being intentional about it so that I can get back to the ultimate result, because what's the mission, right? So I hope that was helpful to any new mom or mom that's dealing with breastfeeding issues. That was the beginning phase for me. That was how I had to pivot, and the actions I took to pivot, and the outcome is where I am today. So I did good on that little part. Today's struggle, I would say spit ups and scheduling and laziness. Let's start with spit ups. First of all, when I was fully bottle feeding, if your baby has acid reflux, a lot of people don't be talking about that, or I don't see it. Acid reflux is a really big thing. It's not just a little spit up, it's like overly spitting up, or it'll flood out his nose and he's choking a lot. And they told us at the hospital that he has a lot of amniotic fluid because of how fast he came out the birth canal. So at first it was really bad, sleeping with one eye open type bad, because he begins to choke and it would flood out his nose, out his mouth, and he's like, you know, and it just happens out of nowhere. So it's the scariest thing ever, I must say. But now he only does it when, one, I'm not burping him in between his feeds. The doctor told me he has an arch at the top of his mouth. This doctor was really, really good. He's the only one that pointed it out, first of all. He has an arch at the top of his mouth, which means that he get a lot of air more than milk. And then also he has a little tongue tie, which also means he get a lot of air more than milk. So those are things I have to pay attention to. So slow feeding him, burping him every 1 to 2 minutes, especially from a bottle, is way easier. But from breast, it's not that easy, because one, I'm not counting the times, and two, he just be in the zone. I hate to interrupt his latch, so it is a little bit harder. But my struggle today when it comes to a struggle, is the spit ups. And I just have to continue to interrupt him, make sure I burp him, and especially since my boobs get really full now, making sure that my boobs aren't that full when he is eating. So it is causing me to at least pump a little bit, maybe in the middle of the night when he's like in deep sleep and I don't wake him up, I'll pump, I'll go back to sleep, and then he'll wake me up and I still have breast milk in my breast. Because when you fully breastfeed, the pump doesn't, for me, it doesn't do its job the way it used to. I still be having milk after like a whole 30 minutes of pumping. So I don't worry about, oh, if I pump now and he wakes me up later, will I have enough milk? the milk still be there, child, especially since I'm fully breastfeeding. So yeah, that's one of my struggles is spit ups. Once again, how to deal with it: slow feed, burp every 1 to 2 minutes in between the bottle or the breast if you can, and try not to give him or her super full breast. That's what's working for me. The second struggle I deal with is scheduling. Um, when I was bottle feeding as an entrepreneur, I was on a schedule. I would give him a bottle because now he sleeps good. So I'm talking about pretty much in the beginning phase again. Now he sleeps good because my breasts are full. But when your breast isn't full and you're not producing as fast, when you switch over to breastfeeding from bottle feeding, your schedule gets a little off because you feel like they're on the boob all day. You feel like that every 2 hours feel like every hour and a half, and it just throws your schedule off. And it caused me to have a hard time when it comes to entrepreneurship a little bit. I really just felt like I was in my bed, but it was worth it because my milk comes in really good now, and I'm back on a great schedule as if I was bottle feeding. Bottle feeding, they're getting full, they lay down, and they be down. And you get that 3 hours that you're supposed to get. So that's the only thing there. When I started breastfeeding, I was like, I wanted this so bad, and now I'm annoyed. But that's okay, you know? So it's like pick your poison. But like I say, your milk is gonna come in great when you're fully breastfeeding, and they're gonna go to sleep and they're gonna stay asleep. So yeah, so that was spit up, scheduling, and laziness. Breastfeeding just caused me to be a little bit of lazy. They say lay down, throw the boob in their mouth. You ain't gotta get all the way up. If they have acid reflux, that's not a good idea. I don't throw the boob in his mouth. I do get all the way up, and I try to even go to my rocking chair on the side. One, it just alerts me, and I'm not just feeding him while I'm laying down because it causes him to choke more. Once again, he has acid reflux really bad. So I like to be alert in the middle of the night no matter what. So I do feed him in my rocking chair, and it makes me feed faster. For some odd reason, when I'm in a bed, I'm like leaning back, or I don't know. When I go to the rocking chair, it causes me to be a little bit up more. And when you're up and you're leaning forward just a little bit, your milk flows a little bit better. And I'm alert, so I'm burping him in between. I'm doing all the things I need to do, and honestly, it allows him to feed good. He's good to go. I put him back to sleep and I get in bed. Whenever I feed him from the bed, that's what happens. I fall asleep. I fall asleep more because I'm leaning back, I'm in the bed, and guess what? I'm waking up and I'm realizing it's already been 2 hours and I still haven't put him back in his bed. And now he's ready to feed again. So now I'm literally putting him, so all that happens when I'm feeding him from the bed. So that's just my little tip. Don't be lazy with it. Be alert with it so that you can get a good night rest. Do what you need to do and get a good night rest. Now, once again, I'm fully breastfeeding now, but I was pumping. So I was getting up. I would make a bottle for him, feed him, or give the bottle to his father when his father was here. Give the bottle to his father, and then I would go pump, and then next thing you know, we back in bed. But now I'm not pumping unless my breast is just too full in the middle of the night. So yeah, like I say, pick your poison. But what got my brain turning was I started to check the minutes. How long does it take me to feed him a bottle? And I'm a single mom now, so how long does it take me to feed him a bottle, make sure he burps good, and then pump, because I have to pump to make sure I get stimulation? How long is that? It would take me 20 minutes to pump, at least 20 minutes to feed him. It didn't feel like 20 minutes, but feeding him slow, 20 minutes, especially when you have to make sure he's burping in between, that's 40 minutes. It takes him about 30 minutes to feed. At first it did. when my milk was coming in slower on my breast. It took him about 30 minutes to feed. Then I gotta burp him. I'm still at about 40 minutes. So that's what made me jump the gun and say, I'm gonna try fully breastfeeding. Also, a doctor told me that we don't have to pump. She was like, you never have to pump. Your body gives your baby exactly what they need in the moment that they need it. And so I just took a chance on myself and was like, I'm going to try fully breastfeeding. At first it started rocky. Like I say, the schedule had changed. Felt like I was in bed all day. But now we're good to go. So just a little tidbit. And what I'm doing to avoid those, so I just kind of went over it. Acid reflux, slow feeding, or pausing in between, sitting in the chair, using my boppy, make sure I do what I need to do in the moment that I'm doing it so that he can get a good feed and I can go on about my business. And mindset, don't be lazy. I keep that in mind, don't be lazy. I'm happy that my baby needs me. I'm happy that I am fully and functional and able to do what I need to do in the moment. And I just kind of think about that when I have to get up in the middle of the night. I think about that when, whatever I have to do, I just think don't be lazy, because laziness can cause you to move in a certain way that you have to repeat yourself, or you moving slower. It make you feel like, oh, this feels good for me in the moment, but no, laziness and procrastination always slows you down no matter what. That's in business, motherhood, postpartum, feeding a bit, whatever the case may be. So I just always think, don't be lazy. But that's pretty much it. Those are my tidbits, whatever that means, for today. Yeah, I hope this was helpful, and I hope that if you are breastfeeding, that you're fighting the fight and doing all the things that you need to do to get through it. Don't be afraid to ask me any questions below. I am here, They say help a sister out when you go through something, so that's all I wanted to do in this video. Love you.